She is good, and it takes a unique individual to stand in opposition to it, maintain your position, and serve as a springboard. Additionally, rumors of Mark Harmon's domineering demeanor on site persisted for years. While his co-stars remained silent, his sister Kristin has now come forward to establish Mark's true identity. The Pauley Perrette drama on NCIS wasn't a singular instance. The dog assault that required 15 stitches for one crew member was only the start. Kristin claims that long before Hollywood, relationships were ruined by Mark's thirst for control. She is at last prepared to share the truth about her brother's sinister side, which everyone had a suspicion about but no one dared to reveal. On September 2, 1951, Mark Harmon was born in Burbank, California. He was raised in a famous family. Tom Harmon, his father, was a prominent sports commentator and Heisman Trophy winner. Elise Knox, his mother, had worked as an artist, model, and actress. Both of Mark's older sisters were successful as well. Prior to becoming a painter, Kristin married musician Ricky Nelson, and Kelly rose to fame as the face of Tic Tac advertisements. Mark was surrounded by expectations growing up since there was so much talent around him. But Mark didn't immediately shine, even if his family was famous. After struggling in school and on the field in his early years, he eventually found his footing in football at Harvard Westlake School in Los Angeles. He received a scholarship as a result of his success there. However, being the son of Tom Harmon, he was constantly judged by his father's legacy in the spotlight and in sports. Having that name wasn't easy. Mark decided to take a less ostentatious path after high school and enrolled at Pierce College in Los Angeles. Before going to UCLA, he stayed there for 2 years. He at last received the academic assistance he required at Pierce. He was able to concentrate better because of the smaller class sizes. He took over as the team's starting quarterback on the field and guided them to a 7-2 campaign in 1971. That year, his talent soared. Major institutions wanted him just months after he was named an All-America honoree. In a little more than a year, he had transformed from an obscure quarterback with a fractured elbow in high school to a major recruit. Then, in 1972, a significant decision was made. He was highly desired by Oklahoma, one of the nation's best collegiate football programs. To personally recruit him, Barry Switzer even took a plane to Los Angeles. Oklahoma's offensive, which had just finished second in the country, was ideal for Mark's style. The majority believed everything was finalized, but Mark shocked everyone by selecting UCLA. They had little to contribute in comparison, having died the year before. However, UCLA was nearby. Mark had no desire to follow in his father's footsteps. He desired to construct something independently. He made his UCLA debut against Nebraska on September 9, 1972. It was among the biggest upsets in the history of collegiate football. The top-ranked state was Nebraska. In 32 games, they had not lost. It was predicted that UCLA would lose by 18 points, but Mark altered the course of events immediately. On his debut series, he threw a 46-yard touchdown throw. He ran for a touchdown after that. Mark spearheaded the drive that resulted in a game-winning field goal with just 22 seconds remaining in the game, which was tied at 17. In 2017, UCLA became victorious. From the broadcast booth, his father observed everything. One of college football's greatest accolades, the National Football Foundation Award for All-Round Excellence, was given to Mark in 1973, his senior year. He earned a degree in communications with honors with a 3.45 to 45 GPA. It was a massive awards ceremony in New York. That same evening, movie star John Wayne accepted the NFL gold medal. On behalf of the student athletes, Mark spoke. He referred to them as a rare breed. He guided UCLA to a 17-5 record in his 2 seasons there. In addition to passing for 845 yards and 9 more touchdowns, he ran for 154 yards and 14 scores. The team set school records for both rushing touchdowns and total yards in 1973. However, despite all of that accomplishment, Mark was not selected in the NFL draft. Even as an undrafted free agent, he was not selected by any team. The hit was terrible. He had the numbers. He was the one in charge. Although he had demonstrated his abilities, the chance never materialized. That was the end of his NFL career aspirations. Mark then turned to acting, which he had never given much thought to before. He had taken on little jobs and performed in a commercial alongside his father, but now he gave it his best attempt. He had different occupations. Initially, he made sales of goods. He was employed in marketing. Between acting engagements, he even took on construction jobs and learned carpentry at his father's workshop. He started working on Coors beer advertisements in 1985. It wasn't glitzy. Speaking in front of the camera, he described Coors as the buyer his parents always had on hand and described it as special. These advertisements continued to run until 1987, with one of them appearing on King Channel 5 in Seattle on March 27 during an episode of Stingray. They were merely a paycheck at the time. given that the majority of people had not yet seen his face. He had to speak seriously about the quality of the barley and beer. When he rose to fame years later, the vintage beer advertisements began to reappear. He viewed them as evidence of his progress rather than a source of shame. He had to sell beer before he could get any serious parts, and he performed it sufficiently effectively to live. His first significant breakthrough was unexpected. He received an Emmy nomination in 1977. In the television movie Eleanor and Franklin, The White House Years, he portrayed Robert Dunlap, a wounded soldier. After debuting on March 13, it received 7 Primetime Emmys, including Outstanding Special of the Year, and became an enormous hit. Everyone was taken aback by Harmon's nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actor. He wasn't well known, although his inclusion on the list was unexpected. His performance caught people's attention. He did not simply appear. Among actors who had been in the business for a much longer, he stood out. Everything changed in that instant. He was suddenly viewed by Hollywood as a serious actor with genuine promise, rather than as a person who just advertised beer. He took the biggest gamble of his career in 1985. He portrayed Dr. Robert Caldwell on the television series St. Elsewhere, a womanizing physician who finds out he has AIDS. This type of plot was practically unheard of. At the time, the Los Angeles Times revealed on November 16 that Caldwell will be among the first well-known TV personalities to get AIDS. The fact that it occurred through heterosexual contact was even more unexpected. That called into question many people's incorrect assumptions regarding the illness. He aired his last program on February 5, 1986. It depicted Caldwell's transformation from a assured and reckless man to one who must confront death and advise his former loves, notably Joan Howard, to get tested. This change was not merely dramatic. It served the public interest. Most programs were scared to bring up the subject of AIDS. Harmon and the show's creators made it a major point rather than merely mentioning it. His reputation as an actor was altered by that choice. He assumed a role that once again astounded everyone a year later. In the 1986 miniseries The Deliberate Stranger, he portrayed Ted Bundy. It was a terrifying show. Harmon didn't actually meet Bundy. "I don't want to," he said. Rather, he addressed those who knew the murderer. He played the part so well that some of them began referring to him as Ted. Only 3 years before Bundy's execution on January 24, 1989, the 2-part drama premiered. Harmon ensured that the murderer was not exalted in the show. It was centered on the investigation and the victims. His work was acclaimed by critics. It was regarded by some as one of his greatest performances to date. It was the part that demonstrated his ability to deal with genuinely sinister content. In 1987, it also earned him a nomination for a Golden Globe. This was a radical change for someone who had previously sold alcohol on television. He changed things up again right when folks believed they understood him. He played the lead. In Carl Reiner's comedy Summer School in 1987, he portrayed Freddie Shue, a laid-back gym instructor who had to teach a group of failing students English. That role didn't seem like the one Harmon would accept. He had primarily performed serious drama up until that point, but he was ideal for the role. The core of the film was his effortless demeanor and inherent charisma. His frequent nibbling, particularly on jelly donuts, was the subject of one of the jokes in the movie. A fan favorite was the remark, "We're all trapped in here like rats," which was accompanied by real rat noises. Summer School turned out to be an unexpected success. It demonstrated that Harmon was capable of more than only playing strong roles. He had a sense of humor. He was able to direct a comedy. He was capable of everything. Mark Harmon had no intention of falling in love over the phone, but everything changed one night in 1986. He was being approached by a friend to go on a date with Pam Dober. Mark left a message on her answering machine and requested for her number, because he didn't want to participate in the group activity. "We don't have to all go out," he remarked. "Something like a cup of coffee would be nice." Pam was paying attention. She took the phone. They went out that same evening and remained together ever since. Mark had recently won the title of Sexiest Man Alive at the time. However, he told the magazine that the attention didn't matter to him. He desired a genuine marriage that would endure in a community where most others did not. On March 21, 1987, 1 year later, they were married. They decided on a chapel at Studio City, where Mark used to attend school. There was only the start of something that would subtly endure a lifetime. New Hollywoody glitz. They didn't even take a proper honeymoon immediately following the wedding. In Vancouver, Mark had to shoot a television film. Pam accompanied him. Their honeymoon was that. It never seemed like a sacrifice, though traditions weren't the foundation of their relationship. Regardless of how it appeared, it was constructed on schedule. They reaffirmed their vows on the same day 30 years later. According to friends, they continued to behave like infatuated teenagers. Pam claimed that her affection for Mark grew every day. They started a family right away. 13 months after their wedding, on April 25, 1988, their first son, Sean, was born. On June 25, 1992, their second son, Ty, was born. However, it wasn't simply the guy's near miss that was noteworthy. It was the extent to which Mark and Pam went in order to preserve their privacy. This was the era of cameras concealed in bushes and tabloids. However, the world was seldom aware of their children's appearance. They spent a lot of time at home, Mark added. Sean went on to pursue acting. On NCIS, he even portrayed a younger version of his father. Ty went on to write screenplays. Though they maintained their groundedness, both sons inherited the family's creative spirit. At one point, Pam said that they had nothing to conceal. Simply put, they didn't want their lives to become a circus. For her family, Pam gave up the most of her work. She left while she was at the top of her game. When people were still thinking about Moore and Mindy, she expressed her opinion that two showbiz persons couldn't maintain a marriage. She went home instead of Hollywood. She forewent larger roles and large sums of money. On birthdays, she decided to bring cupcakes and transport the kids to school. She didn't turn around. Mark also had to make sacrifices for himself. One time, while filming in New Guinea, he missed his son's first steps. When he got home, he promised Pam that he would never do that again. At that point, he decided to put his family above his career. He stayed with NCIS for so long because it allowed him to be at home. It enabled him to attend to the small things and flip pancakes. However, Mark's life was not entirely steady. Kristin, his sister, was disintegrating. In 1980, she and Ricky Nelson got divorced. After then, things quickly became worse. She began abusing drugs and drinking excessively. She was no longer able to paint. Her career as an artist was over. She was working as a casting assistant and earning $200 each week. That was it. Sam, her youngest son, was being passed down through the family, to her sister Kelly first, followed by their parents, Mark and Pam, in due course. At the age of 12, Sam confided in his therapist that being near his mother made him feel uneasy. That was the extent of the situation. Kristin had recently left treatment when she received a subpoena in June 1987. Pam and Mark were requesting custody. They thought Sam wasn't secure. Things became ugly in court. According to Sam's therapist, the youngster depicted his mother as a dragon in his drawings. She experienced tremendous mood swings, he added. Sam was afraid to return home, according to Pam. Claimed that Kristin cursed and screamed at him. Mark and Pam were granted interim custody by the court. Kristin was not permitted to be within 200 yards of Pam's workplace or their home. The family was shattered. Kelly, Mark's sister, and their parents supported him. It gained national attention. When Pam was in her Moore and Mindy years, Kristin accused her of using cocaine. On oath, Pam denied it. Testimonies from psychiatrists, drug histories, and inquiries from parents. The trial turned into a show.